Welcome to the Stanley Parable, Ultra Deluxe. I have a lot to say about this game. I had a lot to say about it in 2013 when it was first released, and now I have 9 more years of a lot to say about it. So we're going to break it into a couple of videos. In the long run, our goal will be to learn as many of the narrative techniques used in this game as possible. Although these techniques are used in a comedy game, and they're used loudly and openly, they don't have to be. These same techniques can be deployed in any game where there is a narrative and a player to connect to. But because they're deployed here, in a comedy setting, at the maximum volume level, they're very easy to see and to learn from. So that's what we're going to discuss in the later videos. We're going to discuss the specific techniques used to connect to the player. Should be fun. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the game itself and its role in the overall dialogue of the games industry, which sounds boring, and maybe it is, but the real reason this is here is to give you a buffer video so that if you haven't played it yet, you can get convinced to go play it without me spoiling everything. Go play it. The Stanley Parable is the reigning champion of the meta-narrative, and it has been the reigning champion of the meta-narrative since 2011, despite the fact that it debuted in 2013. Yeah, we won't go into it. But the point is that no other game has even come close, so you absolutely need to play this game. It's short, go play it. If you haven't played the Crows version, but have played the older version, you should play the Crows version. It's the original version plus a lot more. It's by the same people, more or less, so definitely go pick it up and play it. Moreover, there is a little bit of discussion that I have to have about the difference between the 2013 content and the 2022 content. The 2013 content was released in 2013, obviously. But more specifically, it was released at 2013. 2013 was the year of peak dadventure games. We had The Last of Us and Ass Creed and the new Lara Croft, and we had BioShock Infinite. All of these games were by dads, for dads. They were written by dads and produced by dads, and the player really wasn't being asked anything, or really even playing very much. They were mostly there to listen to the wisdom of the dads, and let the dads get their rocks off being wise and insightful, and it was just a suffocating season of games. It was the last time I played AAA games as, you know, on purpose. It was the worst. It was just awful. And those games weren't dialogues. They were monologues. They were a dad monologuing at you for 20 hours. And that was the season that this game was released into.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
This game also has a dad figure in it, the narrator.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
And 90% of the game is you talking to that dad, initially probably just trying to piss him off. That dialogue is what we're trying to learn here. We're trying to learn the techniques that they use to create the illusion of a dialogue with the game. Now, obviously, they're using an over-the-top narrator and some very silly choices, but you don't have to. You can use this with a lighter touch in any kind of narrator, any kind of narrative. In addition, if you're feeling like this choice here, left versus right, is a little bit too basic, well, it's like with The Hobbit, right? You read The Hobbit and you're like, elves and dwarves and hobbits? How basic. Yeah, this is where it came from. But even if we don't make a choice, that is a choice. And eventually the narrator will start to get irritated at us. That kind of interaction is the sort of thing that we're going to be discussing. There are at least 24 techniques that are used specifically to try and connect with the player, and they're a little bit more nuanced than you might expect. This game is known as a work of compelling genius because you need a lot of insight to set these techniques up, and we're going to discuss some of the methods that were used. That said, I'm sort of just waiting around until the narrator... There he is.
Stood there doing nothing at all. He seems to think I have nothing better to do with my time than to sit around and describe every fascinating little detail of his inability to do anything. This is why Stanley and I are on such good terms.
We'll talk about it. There are several layers of things here, and basically, I just wanted to establish that this game exists, and that you should play it, and that every video after this one is going to be a giant bag of spoilers. Just constant. In fact, this pause screen is technically a spoiler. Hopefully I'll see you around.